Hi guys, it's been a while since we've done any work on the van. Obviously we took it out with our family to do some road trips, and then the engine went. This is one of the main things that we learned when we first bought the van. We spent a bit of time having the engine repaired, and we took it to a VW guy, which spent a lot of time. Dirt all over my face already. Spent a lot of time on the van, and he changed the heads, but he didn't put brand new heads on. He put reconditioned heads, which was probably a mistake. You know, it cost us about $1,500 to repair the engine and get it going. There was a water leak. Obviously with the water engines, it goes everywhere. Obviously we took it for a drive the other day and the heads just went completely, so we've just took it to a VW specialist, which we should have probably done in the first place. And now we've had a little bit of work done on it, and she's running absolutely beautiful. It has cost us a bit of money, but a vehicle without any engine's pointless. So you know, we should have probably done that in the first place. Took it to a specialist, and we've had completely new heads on. What I'll do is I'll show you all the work that we've had done. As you can see down here, we've had all brand new heads fitted to the side, which is fantastic. Always been a little bit hard to start the VW, so what we've actually done is had a new starter motor fitted to the van as well. We got one of the gear reduction starter motors, so it's got a lot more power. It's what everybody recommends, and it has been fantastic. Makes a bit of a whining noise when you start it up, but you know, that's just the gears working, but it's fantastic. And we also upgraded our engine battery to a Varta 74 amp hour battery, so we've got loads of juice there for the starter motor. So fingers crossed, you know, we've got the engine all sorted now, and then what we're going to do is I've just got to build the rest of the units in the side. Obviously I've already pre-made most of them. This is what we saw before. This is going to be our worktop for the units. As you can see, if I just duck under here, we're a little bit cramped at the moment. One of the other guys is just working on his vehicle here in the shop, so the shop's kind of been taken over at the moment, so we're kind of cramped up in the corner, but got the units here which I'm going to finish off, hopefully get all painted up and fitted now. Again, all this filming is just done on my phone because we're a bit cramped up and we don't really have the equipment to set everything up properly to film it, but it still works. So it's now, I want to say, the 2nd or 3rd of October. At the 1st of November, we plan on taking the VW on a road trip from Melbourne, where we live at the moment, all the way up to Ayers Rock, and then over to the west coast of Australia. So we plan on doing a bit of a road trip in it. So we've been restoring it for a while now, and obviously we've just had the engine done. So we can't wait to get out and actually see, you know, how everything goes and if it's as comfortable as we expect it to be. So what I've got left to do, as you can see, it's still pretty empty. I've got to put the units in. We've got to finish the back of the bed off, the seats in. You can't really see anything here, the seats in, but we've got to make the rest of the bed, get the fridge wide up, get everything ready to go. Still got to take the dash out because one of the heater cables has come off the back of the console. So it means I've got to take the whole dash out. While the dash is out, I'm probably going to have a look at the heater. The heater works, but the foam for the flaps and everything is worn. So I need to replace that, and then we're going to fit a new radio to it, get some speakers so we can have some music going when we're doing the long drive. So this is the work we've got left. I've got to put a shelf in here yet. This is going to be a service thing. This is where our water filler is. So these are the locking mechanisms. They're just part of the runner, which means it locks when it's out, so it won't slide back in, and then it locks when it's in. We don't need a handle or anything. Well, we'll have a handle to pull, but you know, this is all the mechanism all in one. And then we've just got the battery box, everything there. The worktop put in before I put it down. Hey, what's going on, guys? So we're just doing our units at the moment. We've obviously made all the units. Now we're sanding them all down, getting ready to paint. There's Lotta. There she is, tediously sanding. So what I've done is I've made the kitchen worktop, which is not really made, I bought it, but I bought a good solid chunk of wood. What I'll do is I'll flip the camera around. The solid wood worktop I'm going to use, as you can see here. The worktop came in 2.2 meters, and it's actually 13 mil of all things short. What I've had to do is just take the edge off here and just a little dink here for the units. I didn't have any fancy clamps or anything to do to join it together, so all I did is just drill 2 holes straight through, and then just put some good 150 mil decking screws. Actually, you might be able to see them in there, maybe not, it won't focus. Anyway, through that, so I've rounded the edges a little bit on the thing, and what I'm going to do now, I just did a bit of a test sand with the router. I'm just going to round the edges off so it's nice and smooth now. And then what I'm actually going to do is we're going to cut a section out of this down to there, which is going to lift up, and that's just going to be kind of like an open top bench so we can get into a cabinet. So first I'll make the kitchen top in one piece, and then I'll just chop out the bit that I want, and then hopefully when it all sits in the up on the units, it'll look all nice and in one piece. So this is what we got so far. Still got some sanding to do on the edges, just these little burn marks where the router has just cut into the wood a little bit. But what I've done now is we've smoothed all the edges off so they're nice and round going out and through. You okay? Do you need a hand? Lotta, you can see here, is taking some of the units out. Beautiful. You sure you're okay? Oh, bless. What we've also done, you might not be able to see it very well here. So we've rounded the back of the units off, but not on 2 places, which is here and then over here. And what these are the columns that go up and around our window. So because we're going to have curtains across our window, we've rounded the edge off so it's nice and smooth. And then just where it's going to touch back into the pillar, it's going to just look like it joins straight into it and then just flows out again. So I think it's going to look really nice and be a nice little different feature. So you can't really see it all here, but you can kind of see what I mean here. But anyway, let's see how we go. mess, but this is the underside of my worktop, and if you can see here, what I've done is I've routed out a nice little channel. So some of you, and it kind of goes in through, this is going to be one of my cupboards, and out through the back of the unit. So some of you can probably guess what it is, and the rest of you, it'll be a surprise. Ooh. Lottie painting the inside of the cabinets like a watered down blue colour. Being very careful. So then we should still have a bit of a wood look on the inside of a cabinet. What she doesn't know is that this is the inside of the fridge, so it doesn't need to be painted.
No, but I did this at the test because if I mess this one up into the pallet, it's not going to see it.
Oh, one step ahead of the game. Nice work. So we've took the units out to get some paint on them, and what we've been doing is fitting the curtain rails. As you can see, we haven't gone for the rope, we've gone for proper, this is called mini track rail, so it's super low profile. So we've done that, and we can see here, Lotte is just fitting the ones to the back windows. Beautiful. So as you can see, we're focused. We're just using pot rivets to get them in. We've also bought some white pot rivets so that they would, you wouldn't end up with these little shiny silver things halfway down. So yeah, so that's the curtain rail. What we've done here is where we're going to have a curtain across our door. We were going to put it on the inside of the door, but then it was going to sit pretty close to the outside of the van, and we didn't want to get any of our curtains dirty. So what we did is we fitted a track along our roller runner, and then what we've managed to do is just bend that thing around the roller down to the side, so it sits in pretty nice and neat, and then when the curtain goes, it'll come and just loop back around and should be really nice. So that's our curtains. They do stick out a little bit being wide on a cream roof, but once the curtains are on, you're not really going to know the difference. What do you think? Look good?
Yeah, no. Just sew the curtains now.
No, we're just gonna, Lotus is gonna make the curtains. Woo! What's going on? So today I'm gonna fit some 240 power to the van. I've been umming and ahhing about this for a little bit because I don't really want to have any panels or flaps outside of the vehicle because, you know, it's not going to be a stealth camper, but I just don't like the look of it, so I'm trying to avoid it. So what I'm going to do is, I'm not sure if it's a mistake or not, but we bought a special outdoor socket that's fully sealed when closed. I'm actually going to try and fit it up under the wheel arch so that it's easy to access and plug a lead in, but from the outside you can't really see this ugly socket sticking out. Now obviously it's going to take a bit of water and dirt from the road, but with it being being an outdoor socket, I don't think it's going to be an issue. Like, we've had used these sockets on our equipment here, and rain, you know, hail, sleet, whatever it is, there's no water getting inside, so I'm pretty confident about it working. But this is what it's going to look like, just up in the top corner, I think. And then obviously this just inside. Behind here is exactly where all my power units are, all my trips are going to be anyway, so it works out pretty nice if it can sit there. So, I now just dropped it. So I'll try and install it now and see how we go. What I've done now is we fitted the stealthy-ish kind of mains inlet, or the 240, whatever you want to call it, and there she is there. So what I've done is I've sealed all around the unit. This thing has a clip that you have to physically release to open it, so that when it's closed it locks in. So I've sealed all around it to make it waterproof, and what we're going to do is we're going to paint all the wheel arch later. Lotta's done this side already. She's like rubber undercoated everything, so it's nice and waterproof, and it's supposed to help with sound and just general corrosion. So we're going to do this on the back as well, and then that should seal the socket, or double seal the socket, because we'll paint right up to the front edge of the electric. So hopefully, fingers crossed, it works out. We're just going to wire out some stuff on the van while I've got a bit of time. I brought this fuse board, or fuse block, whenever you can get into it. There we go. So what I'm going to do is my USB, I fitted a USB socket up here. I'm going to run into this. I've got a couple of 12-volt lights. Obviously I'm going to run into this so I can put fuses and everything, so everything's fused, and if there's an issue it's just going to trip there. Now, rather than run all of the mains directly back to my battery, this is just a loose thing because we was away at the weekend and I wanted to use the socket. So I'm going to run, I've just quickly knocked up this, which looks a bit funny, but it looks a bit scatty now, but basically it's just a looper. So I'm just going to loop off one to the next, to the next, to the next. So I've just got one cable going directly to my positive, and then I can run my positive cables to my lights, to my USB sockets, and to everything else that's going to be run off 12 volts. So it's going to keep this nice and tidy, and hopefully keep my fuse board nice and tidy. So let's see what it looks like when it's all plugged in. So basically this is it wired up. As you can see, I've tried to keep it as neat as possible. It's a little bit short on the end, but I've just gone from one to the other, and then this cable here I'll run down around, and then I'll put a little U-bolt, a little circle crimp here to connect that to my power, and that means I'm going to have 12 volt live to all of my sockets here, and then I can just bring the positive straight off. And then what I'll probably do is just run a little union block along the bottom for the neutrals as well. So again, I can keep my battery terminals pretty tidy. Just one cable down to here, and then I can just run positives and negatives straight in off the side there. So it's a little bit out of focus. There we go. So that's a start anyway. Hey, what's going on? Today's job is going to be a little bit close to the face. Wiring up the 240 side and fitting in the cabinets. So we put some paint on the cabinets, and now down here I got all my negative and my positive and all the fuses wired up for my 12 volt, and this is going to be my 240 tropes that's going to work my charger, my fridge and my 240 sockets. So let's get it all wired up. Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm just in the van. What I'm doing now is I've wired up a few lights, which I showed you earlier. We have just bought this roll of fairy lights, this kind of copper wire kind of light, and we bought this from eBay. We bought 30 meters of it, which I think is probably an overkill. And what it has got is a tiny little remote control and a little sensor, which I can hide anywhere in the van, and it actually works pretty perfectly, which means I don't actually have to wire a switch up for these lights. We can work it off a remote. Granted that we don't lose this is the main problem, but what my plan is to run it along the ceiling and then just have some cute lights in the ceiling. So what I don't want to do is have any ugly fittings or anything like that. So my plan is just to use a small needle and thread and then go through the little holes that are already perforated in the ceiling lining and then hopefully just tie a little knot. That's the plan. I think it's going to be a very tedious job, but hopefully by the end of it will look really neat, and when the lights are on, look pretty cool in the ceiling. So that's how we're going. I'll put some photos on to see the progress. Alright, so I've had a pretty busy day today. What I've done is the roof rack, put some wooden kind of decking slats on it so it makes it a bit more stable to kind of climb up on top and walk on it. I've been trying to focus on the rear seat. What I've had to do is fit this bar here, which you can't really see. What I've done is I've made this rear bar here, which you can't tell because it's black, but there you go. You see, I've made a cutout for the handle of my seat, so the handle will sit down. And what this is going to do is, I used 12mm board, which was the same as what the seat was made out of when we left. I've got to cover this with something. It's going to be under the seat. It's not really going to make too much of a difference. Pretty basic, just lever with two cables attached to these things. Obviously, when it pulls, it just pulls that in. But what I noticed is that when someone sits on the seat, because this is like 1200 across, that the seat starts to bow and dip. So I originally didn't think that I would need this bar, but it's also going to help my my door close up. What I've started to do is make all the wood infills here for this, and then I've just made the door. As you can see, I fitted a piano hinge just on the bottom. That's going to hinge my door up and down. The catch to keep the door closed, I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to use yet, but we'll have to see. Maybe I've got something that will work, or maybe I've got to buy something else, but I'm going to try and not spend too much more money, you know, with just catches and things, because I've got a few already. So let's see how it goes. Alright guys, what we decided to do is we're going to use some leather, the same leather that we're going to make all the handles out of. We're going to use the same thing to use as like a curtain tie back. So rather than use the same material for the curtain, which most people do because you have loads of it left over once you've made them. I didn't really make them, Lotta made them, so fair play to her, you know, she's done a fantastic job. But what we did is, for the leather it was really easy. We just went to a local market where we live in Melbourne, and we just went to a guy who's a belt maker, or you know, sells you belts, or kind of handmade belts, and we just got a belt without the buckle, and then got him to chop it in half for us, which he was happy to do. And yeah, I think we have enough leather here to easily do the whole van and all the handles. So luckily we've got a punch at work, so it's quite easy to punch the holes in the ends, and then I've got a good heavy duty pair of scissors that I'm gonna, you know, round all the edges off so they look nice and neat. So I'm gonna try and put some press studs on it, and then hopefully, let's see, hopefully it'll work really well and it'll look nice together. What's going on, guys? We noticed that our cab windows were rocking a little bit forwards and backwards, so we bought a little kit for the focus, the little bushes on our window regulator. Also we put the focus, the new white one, in here. So for this I didn't even bother to take the glass out. You can't see very well, but all I've done is a quick clamp just to clamp it up to the ceiling. and then I've just pulled the regulator out from this hole in the door. It had fitting instructions with it. The only thing it failed to mention was that the bottom of this coil spring was actually welded together, so I actually had to grind the end off and then re-weld it back together after we've finished. So it's probably not necessary that you need to weld it, but it came welded, so I decided to weld it back together. And I just filled this whole thing with fresh grease. You can see the new blue grease everywhere. So hopefully that would mean our windows slide up and down a bit easier, and that shouldn't rock around too much with these new bushes.